Welcome to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about finding the why and how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for lending me those ears. Today, I want to talk about something that I get asked about quite a lot, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now, and that is about my gestures. Now, one of the things that people have noticed, have commented on many times, is how I use my gestures to tell stories when I'm actually on stage talking to a large group. Now, this is important because I think when you're presenting one-to-many, if you want to be a great influencer, see, I can't stop myself from doing it. If you want to be a great influencer, what you have to do is develop gestures that really draw the picture for the audience. Now, here's how I practice. And again, I'm just sharing this, maybe you can use this. As you're going through your presentation, as you're learning your presentation, you should get up. Just get up and then take the first, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes, 5 minutes of your presentation, and then analyze what you're saying, and then ask yourself, what gestures would I use to describe what is going on? Now, you don't have to use gestures all the time, so you don't need to be in motion all the time, but sometimes there's something to be emphasized, right? So you kind of use this type of gesture. Or you raise your hand because you're going, I'm going to ask a question, I want to make a point. Whatever it may be, ask yourself, what gestures would I use? When would I use them? And the way to practice, the way I practice is, and this looks a little crazy if you're coming from the outside looking in, is when I walk around the house, I actually practice by gestures. And so when I'm walking around the house, I have, let's say, a story I want to tell. And for example, I'll give you a quick story right now. When I first started working, see that? When I first started working, one of the first things I worked on was a torpedo system. Now, have you seen The Hunt for Red October? And people are going to say yes. And it's a movie about submarines going after each other, Russian submarine, U.S. submarine. Then I start talking about torpedo and how they go through the water and how they start pinging, boom, boom, making that sound. So then I start telling this story, and I go into this story, how the torpedo goes from point to point until eventually it finds its target. And see, just in those 2 minutes, if that, I used about, 5 to 7 different gestures to explain what was going on in the story. And when you do that, when you can do that as you're presenting and at the same time use your voice to draw that drama to it, like if you want to get excited, you talk real fast. Now, here's what we're going to talk about because here's what you're going to see. But then you start to slow down and you give it drama. And then you add the gestures. And all of a sudden, people are having a visual and oral experience. In other words, they're seeing something and they're also listening to it, and you're telling a story. Because every product or service you sell is a story. The question is, how are you going to tell that story? And I'm telling you right now that if you can use your voice, if you can use gestures to really draw pictures, and again, you're not doing it all the time, but let's say that 60 to 70% of your presentation is full of gestures, you will have more of an impact. And it registers with the audience, even at a subconscious level. They may not be conscious of the gestures, but at a subconscious level, what you're doing is you're imprinting your message in their brain. Not only through what you're saying, that's what they're hearing, but in the visual that you're giving them. So if you want to be a great influencer, keep in mind that you got to use your voice, but more importantly, use your hands, your gestures, your body movement to actually get into the story and tell the story. And that's it for the Sales Influence Podcast. Leave me some feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, and now Pandora. Also, if you get a chance, check out the Sales Velocity Academy. You know the deal. We got 50 courses with over 500 videos. So if you want to learn how to sell more faster, go to salesvelocityacademy.com. Lastly, I want to thank you for listening. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care.
Hi, I'm Victor Antonio. I'm an author, sales trainer, and keynote speaker. I'm often asked, what makes a great speaker? Is it someone who delivers real content that the audience can use? Is it someone who engages the audience so they're part of the learning experience? Or is it someone who can motivate an audience to push them beyond their comfort zone and discover new abilities? The answer is yes. But the most important thing to remember is that I'm not there to look good. I'm there to make my client look good. Simply put, it's never about me, and it's always about them.